All right, we are live. Welcome to Insert More Coins, and I am here with LM Bayen with Lamia, and we are going to discuss her book that is about to be released, The Wingspan of Treason. So, how are we doing tonight?
Hi, Rowdy. Hi, thank you for inviting me on. I'm okay. We were just talking about this. I've just got home from work. Um, so you can imagine.
So we were talking before that you have never pitched your book, and this right here might be the hopefully perfect opportunity. So I guess we can get started with can you talk to me about the wingspan of treason?
So not only have I never pitched it, but like I said to you, you've never read it. So this is a great combination. This is a good start. So, um, The Wingspan of Treason is an adult epic fantasy. I mean, and when I say epic, I mean I really took the I mean, epic. So it's chunky, it's big. It's 670. Oh, 600 and I'm just checking because
It's a
every
monster.
print is slightly different. It's 650-ish pages of actual story, or just below that, with illustrations which don't take up that many pages. So it's mostly all words. It's about, I mean, at its core, it's about three young men who are fleeing their homeland or their adoptive homeland in one of their cases, um, in a continent that is divided by a lot of political strife and historical kind of baggage, but crucially divided by a dam, which is the kind of the big point of difference, and which is a key theme in the story. And they're fugitives, or at least one of them certainly is. The other two, his friends, and they're running with them, and they enter a different world with many challenges. Discover a lot about themselves, discover a lot about the place they've left behind. And yeah, I mean, it's an effort. It's really hard to it's really hard to boil it down beyond that, but basically that's it.
Awesome. I can't wait to get a chance to read it. It sounds really good, and with it being a chunky boy, it's definitely something I am very much interested in.
Thank
So,
you.
what um what inspired you to write this?
uh Alex is saying the dam is the biggest villain of the story. I agree, Alex. Alex has read the book, so I agree. I'm glad that's out there. Um, I think, to be honest with you, so I've fantasy is probably the earliest genre that I began reading. I'm not a native English speaker, so I came in when I was very small. I probably learned English mostly through stories, just through reading. I grew up with stories, but reading in particular and fantasy was my sort of go-to genre. And I think there was a period of time where I just didn't have much time to read, just sort of studying and then working. Certainly not fiction. So I read a lot of nonfiction. And when I came back to reading fiction, you just miss it. If you're a bookworm, once a bookworm, you're always going to be a bookworm at any opportunity. When I came back to it, I kind of just wanted to reread the stuff that I loved before. I did try a few more sort of recent releases. They're not recent now, but back then they were sort of titles on the shelves, and they just didn't capture me so much. So I think I just started writing the stuff that I love to read myself, and over that period of time, I think I discovered as well I mean, I love fantasy, but I also love literary fiction. I love general fiction, and for me, a big difference between general fiction and fantasy is sometimes just the prose. So there's a lot more kind of love, and there's a lot more attention to the prose in other genres, I think, sometimes than in fantasy, purely because, not because people aren't competent at writing it in fantasy. I think it's because you have to measure your words. You have to focus more on world building and magic systems and all those sorts of things, whereas in general stories you kind of can use words more liberally, and you can sort of be more creative with language. And I wasn't satisfied with that, so I love reading general fiction, which is written a certain way, but I also like fantasy. So I kind of, people say you shouldn't write with two genres in mind, but I just did that intuitively. And I guess I also needed, I mean, you write a story that you want to read. I mean, I think I, at this point, enjoy writing more than I enjoy reading, although I still love reading, but that just tells you how much I enjoy writing certain things. And then it just got bigger and bigger in the story kind of, I mean, I started writing in 2016. And then, as you can imagine, it's been a very busy period all over the world in that time.
Yes.
So, it becomes an escape, and then and then you're like, oh God, I've written a whole book now. Now I have to take it seriously. Now I have to edit it, and I have to get it proofread, and and everything else. So yeah, that's but in essence, I began writing because I felt like I was missing something in books, and I just wrote a story that I wanted to read.
That sounds awesome. Huzzah, we need a Lamia audiobook.
There will be no audiobook.
Oh.
You want to finish me off, man. There will be no audiobook.
Well, is there a reason why, or is it you just don't want to attempt to do or too much?
If I'm honest with you, I don't imagine my story. I don't think I'd be able to pull off all the characters and do them justice with my sort of, and I think you have to start acting, and I just don't really, that's too much time investment. I think there are people who can do it far better. Like, it's nice, it's fun to read extracts from your book, and you can do those okay, but once you've got like guttural noises and onomatopoeia and different kind of characters and creatures and things, it gets a bit more challenging. Do you really want to hear me snarl and growl and all these other, it's like, it's not.
I get it. Yeah. I don't, you live across the pond, and I don't know how that works, far as like if it's the same as like Audible or whatever, but do they have something like Amazon? You may not even want to associate with Amazon.
No, that's fine. Yeah, there is an equivalent. Yeah, I would like be interested in someone recording it. I just don't do it myself, and there is an equivalent. I haven't got that far yet, but I will look into it in the future because a lot of people do prefer. No, Dave. No, the answer is no. I'll just save it for you. I'll just keep you toe you line.
Hello, some other character. How's it going? What else do we got here? Already overbooked. Hello. Well, so what influenced you to become an author, like in general? Like, is it something like you just always wanted to do, or it's like, hey, I'll just write a book? I know, like I talked to Ryan Skiffington, last week, week before, and he was just, driving home from a football game and was like, I think I'm gonna write a book, and just did it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love stories. So when I wasn't born in the UK. I was born in Syria, and there's TV everywhere, but there was very little television growing up when I was a kid. And I have big sprawling families, but I think in the Middle East especially, many other people I'm sure can identify with this, there's a very rich storytelling tradition. So my favorite memories of time spent with like my grandmas and great uncles and etc. was just literally sitting around and listening to a story, and it was the most captivating thing. It was better than anything you could watch. For me, it was more fun than being outside running around, etc. It was just magic, especially if it was the end of a day. And they told the most incredible stories. They have a very old tradition, a very poetic language, but this can people from cultures that have a storytelling tradition can relate to this, whatever kind of linguistic styles they have. And I think that just never really left. And I'm the kind of person who, if I really love something, my next natural instinct is to try my hand at it. Do you know what I mean? So like I said to you, I started writing this because I wanted to write a different kind of story. As much as I love all the other stories that I read, you kind of want to fill that niche, but that was, so it was also always something that was waiting to happen, and then it did.
Awesome. I know. Okay, so you're from Syria, and you had told me earlier that your husband is from Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, he's from Pennsylvania.
How did y'all meet?
So we were friends for a long time, and
Okay.
then he decided to move.
Oh,
And then
okay.
yeah, and then
That's cool.
across the pond.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, that's it's just yeah, it kind of happened organically. But yeah,
yeah. Um,
he jumped.
so I was like, that's kinda neat, you know, you go obviously completely separate worlds, and then y'all end up moving to a whole 'nother separate world,
Yeah, yeah.
and so and then I know you had said he's from, like, Pennsylvania, and I was like, "Well, that's where I go every single day." So I was like, that's pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
So,
He's not recovered yet. Don't worry.
yeah, I'm sure it's totally different over there.
Yeah, it's just, he hates cities anyway, so, London is if you hate
Yeah.
cities, London is not the place to move to, but, the things you
Oh,
do for
okay.
love, the things you
Yeah.
do for
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
love.
Anyways, yeah, I'm from me and my wife are from a, very small town, like, I think our population was, like, 500 maybe, and a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
them were probably 60 or older. So, when we moved to the other side of our state, we moved, like, 40 for 30 probably 35, 40 minutes from, a major city, which that major city's only got probably 500,000 people, which is still a bunch. I mean, it's a huge difference, but,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's I couldn't imagine London, that's,
It's
one of the
big.
biggest places in the world.
It's big,
Um,
small and quiet sounds very appealing right now.
yeah, yeah. I've seen, like, some of the stuff, like, you've, had pictures on, like, X and all that of, like, beautiful landscapes. Is that,
Yeah.
like, around your area and stuff? You just go walking and
So London, I mean, to be honest, I love London. I wouldn't want to live here the whole time, but I love London. But it's probably one of the greenest cities in the world, and it's full of
okay,
incredible parks. So yes, there are lots of beautiful
yeah,
green places, but also I think UK generally is very beautiful. And unlike the US, which is incredibly beautiful, you don't have to travel far to get to somewhere completely different.
yeah,
So, the pictures that I posted last week from up north were from a place that's sort of a 4.5, 5 hour drive away, which
yeah,
is, inconceivable to in some
yeah,
ways to, people elsewhere. So yeah, it's just and I get away locally when I get away nationally when I can, I suppose.
yeah, yeah, we moved, like, moving from one side of our state where there's, like, nothing. I mean, the biggest, like, you might have hills, and we moved to the mountains, and now it's like every morning you get up and it's just beautiful scenery. There's
Mm,
nothing like it. I mean,
it's
it's
just beautiful.
fantastic.
It's
Yeah,
very inspiring.
yeah. Let's see, Alex has a question. Is Claus similar to your husband? Does he have German heritage?
So Klaus is nothing like my husband. If I'm completely honest, my husband has a little bit of Eric, but when he was a kid, when he was younger, but he's not like Eric anymore, I suppose. Yeah, no, Klaus is nothing like my husband. He's American, so which is a hodgepodge heritage, as you can imagine. The European aspect of his heritage is Eastern European and Irish and English, so not German.
Okay, okay. So, what did you far as, like, what was your process on, like, writing this book? Like, could you take me through that? Like, I know, like, whatever your inspiration was, and then kind of how it went about?
So this is going to be super corny, super a bit silly, but actually, it began with two things. One was the Oslo, which so Alex a little while ago said we need a Ravi audiobook. So Ravi is a character. Um, he doesn't talk, so it's kind of much to call him character. But I have mini beasts in the book. Ravi
Okay,
is the most prominent one, um, and He's actually was inspired by one of our cats. Our cats are very special. They belong to my
okay.
husband's mother-in-law, and she passed away. So they're very, very special to us. They
Uh-huh,
came with my husband from the US, and this cat has. I mean, everyone says their cat has character, but this cat had class. He was a character, and he's just a rascal. So Ravi was like inspired by my cat. So my cat was responsible for the book. So he's now departed, but I can't. I had to mention that in there, which is very corny for a 600 and something page epic. So that was one thing. But the other thing was I knew I wanted to write a story, but I think sometimes a single sentence, a single paragraph, or a scene can really trigger something, at least for me, and that can end up just sort of avalanching into a whole plot, into like a whole book. And for me, it was this one line which I now have used in my trailer. So it's the first line of my trailer, which was and now I can't remember it, of course, because I have to. It was I was halfway across the desert when I first heard the news of my death, and I knew that that was going to be the first line of the book, at least back then. I mean,
Hmm.
the book is now no
Okay.
longer a first person.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't begin like that anymore. But I love that line so much that I recycled it and I put it in the trailer. And the other thing is that I'm fascinated with geopolitics and geography and things, and
Okay.
I have two cultures. I've grown up in two places. They're both big part of my identity, and the struggles with water I've experienced as a child. I remember those, and that kind of fear, not to this extent, thankfully, but that fear of what life would be like without water, that fear of drought, the sudden interruptions. That's something that is very real for me. And that's a key theme in the book. So this book then kind of evolved around a dam, which is what divides these two nations, and it has its own story. So they're the key three things, I think, that kind of shape the book, and you won't kind of realize how strange this sounds until if you read the book. It actually began as a middle grade book, which
Okay.
people who have read the book now are like, they look at me and they think I'm mad, but it began as a middle grade book, a lot more fun, a lot more lighthearted, and it changed very quickly into something a lot darker and a lot more adult, which is much more in tune with what I'm about, really.
Okay. So you got Tom Bookbeard. Hello, hello, Secret
Hi, Tom.
Scribes.
Hi, everyone else too.
Yeah, and then we've got Triple B.
Hey,
What's up,
Triple B.
Chris?
Chris.
Oh, well, that sounds how. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. This was going to be a middle grade. Like, did you have like a page count ready for that? And there was like, this is going to be too big, so I'm going to change it and just make it adult epic
Oh no,
fantasy.
no, I didn't even get that far. The plot very quickly revealed itself. I mean, I don't tend to plot too much, actually. I mean, I that's not true. I kind of wait till an idea feels right, and then I develop it quite a bit, and then I kind of let it become organic again. So I'm not really a sort of a plotter or a pantser. There's a kind of a bit of both at different phases. And within like a month of starting to think about this book and writing it, it changed immediately to third person, multi POV, adult. So it didn't take
Right.
long, but it began as a middle grade book. So
Yeah. Alex, page count for middle grade. Can you imagine a
Alex.
600-page middle grade book?
The irony is that the only time I have the only time I write this many words or write too many words is when I write epic fantasy. When I write any other genre, I struggle to get to what is conventionally considered the correct word count. So I think a book that's even closer to my heart is a general fiction that I'm working on at the moment, or maybe as close to my heart. It's a general fiction, so it's not adult at all. It's not a fantasy at all. And I'm struggling to get it to like 80,000 words, because
Okay.
it's just because I'm extreme like that, apparently. So either it's
Yeah.
too long or too short. So
Yeah. Is it like whenever you start writing, like, do you just write and just let it flow and then
No,
it's as much, or do you have
no, I learned the hard way that is not how you write a book. I mean, I initially began like that, and I let the story develop too much, and I realized that that's not how I write the rest of the story. And halfway through the book, I realized, yeah, we can't do that. So what I do is I mean, in the same way when you start a painting, you really need to have like an idea of the end result, for me anyway. You kind of block out your dark areas, your light areas, you have your foreground, you have your background, and I very kind of I don't start writing till I have a clear idea of a beginning, a middle, and an end, and key moments. And so you have to kind of, the way, again, like how you build a building, you lay out the foundations. Otherwise, to me, later, either it doesn't make sense, or the plot holes are too big, or it is so onerous to go back and fix that you just want to shoot yourself, and you're like, why did I do this to myself? So I just try and lay it out a decent groundwork from the beginning, and then I will start writing, and then the words can flow and the ideas can flow, but they've got to fit around that foundation. And if they don't, I can move some things around. I'm not kind of rigid, but it really helps, because I think that's the best way to have a seamless overall progression. Nothing is too hurried, nothing is too like, there's a lot of books out now. A lot of people say, oh, it starts out great, and then the last kind of third of the book, everything was rushed, and everything kind of, I've heard that a lot about certain books, and I think that's more sort of industry pressure, actually, rather than the author not being very competent because of word count pressures and page count pressures and things in fantasy. But I think it's important to have that overall bird's eye view before you start building the nest.
Okay. See, we've got Chris says that your voice is just as lovely as I pictured it would be.
Oh, thank you, Chris. You haven't heard me shout. I shout at people when they're naughty. That's what Thomas is. Thomas is,
Oh, okay. It's going to be too big, so I'll just make it the biggest.
Basically.
Okay, that's what this is. So I think the Thomas the Tank Engine meme to be your avatar.
There is time for that, Tom. I've learned how to do, well, no, I've forgotten how to change the avatar. When I remember, I will do that for you, especially, and I'll just put, I'll put Tom somewhere in there.
So my goal for the rest of the interview is to bring Thomas out. Okay, Dave, and then here we go. Hot take: fantasy books shouldn't be over 108K words.
Oh, Dave, I've been doing this for too long, my friend.
Yeah. And then Alex says, oddly specific count, Dave. Now, would that be because of Dave's book? Is his 108K?
I don't know. I don't remember if it's 108 or 110 or slightly more, actually. I've started reading Envoys. It's a huge amount of fun. Very, very, it's great. But I haven't got far enough to be able to guess the word count.
It is
exactly what Envoys is.
Yeah, look at that. 107.5. Yep. So you got to know the cutoff. And Dave's book's fantastic. I did read it, which he was on the channel. It's so good.
It really, I've loved it. I've read a few chapters, so, and like I said, we were talking about this before we went live. I normally read a book at a time, just because I like to really immerse in a story. And I'm a big rereader, so I'll read a book and I'll read it again, usually, unless I really don't like it. That's what I normally do anyway. But I've been, because of the publishing process and a lot of other life stuff going on, I've had to kind of put off a lot of reading on hold, and I just really miss reading. So I've been really greedy, and I've kind of been reading like 4 or 5 different books at the same time. And surprisingly, it's going okay. But it's been really nice. So
yeah, that would. I think I could do 2, maybe 3, but one of them is probably going to have to be mostly audiobook. But that's because I drive 10 hours a day. So what am I going to do with my time? And then and then by the time I'm done, I don't feel like reading 200 or 300 pages or multiple books. I'd never get anything finished.
I get that.
Like that's the only way I could get done with like any of like the Stormlight Archive books. Sanderson is doing a lot of them on audio, because I mean, heck, 1,200 pages, that's ridiculous.
Those word counts, for sure.
Yeah. And then
now it makes me feel better about my word count. That's like
over
half.
What is yours? Around like 200?
So the actual story is probably around 650-ish, but there's like maps in there. There's a glossary. So the book itself, I mean, let me see. This proof is 650, 7, that kind of thing. But like I said, that includes the maps, the proof. The glossary.
Speaking of maps, did you draw all those?
Yeah, I illustrated everything in the book.
Wow, they are amazing.
Thank you very much. So I've learned also the hard way. You should draw your map before you write the story. and
Okay.
that was not a fun discovery to make. So I had like sketches, fake sketches of where things were, but then, once you've written something and someone has taken a week and a half to get from A to B, and things happen that are kind of temporal and things, and you come to draw your map and you realize that there is no way the scale is going to work, you just, again, having to rewrite that is infuriating. So I've definitely learned to draw my map first, which is what's happening for the
Yeah.
second book, and then you write a story.
I understand. Like I'd seen where like you had posted your stuff about, all the book release and you're giving away like maps and then Earth, which I think they just did one of them and then a what was it, bookmarks, I think. And they looked awesome too.
Thank you.
So
They're yeah. I just took illustrations from the book and used those for the bookmarks. The maps are so I'm a I mean a lot of authors relate to this. I'm a stationery geek. I love stationery, love paper, and they're actually just the paper is so special. So I just got them printed on really nice paper, and
yeah,
I just hope they'll make someone happy. They're quite big as
yeah,
well. You don't appreciate that they're quite big, so they'll be a
yeah,
nice giveaway for someone.
that's awesome. Did they so have you always like just randomly been talented at drawing and crafting in general? Like is
I
that
just
something?
like I think like I mean I didn't grow up with much television, and when I moved to the UK I didn't speak any English initially. I knew like 2 words, and we were in a very kind of isolated, lonely kind of living situation at the time. And I think I just yeah, I'm a creative person, but I mean I come from a creative family, and you kind of imbibe that tradition. You grow up making stuff. My mum's an artist, and I guess it becomes second nature. So like I said, if I like something, my next intuition is to try my hand at it. So my two kind of big things when I was a kid were reading and drawing, and then they kind of just developed from there. I'd never drawn maps of this kind before this book. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I wrote a book about map maker, and I didn't consider that I would have to draw maps until I finished. So I
Yeah.
spent a year drawing for the book, but it's great fun. And my maps have been more artistic than sort of traditional maps. I'll do more traditional maps in the future, but yeah, that's something I've always done. And art kind of, I mean, I use that at work as well. I use that in other stuff. I use it sort of
Okay.
occupationally. So yeah, it was easy to kind of merge the two.
Okay. That's awesome. Let's see. Some of the what kind of truck do I drive? I drive a 2019 International automatic, and I couldn't tell you the engine that's in it because I don't pay attention to that stuff. And cab overs are the worst. The Snowball Summer says my mom's an artist, but I can't draw to save my life. Same here. My wife and my daughter are very good at drawing, in my opinion. And my son is real big, which he's 10. He's really big at drawing like comic books, like little
Yeah,
lines, and puts all of his detail in it. He actually drew. We were at church this morning. He drew like a whole Mario Kart thing
nice.
randomly out of nowhere. So
How old is he?
he's 10.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Oh,
My
cool. That's nice.
daughter's 13, and yeah, they're they got all the artistic stuff. It didn't come through me, that's for sure.
It's very good for brain development as well. It's very good
Yeah.
cerebrally to have those skills. Yeah, and that's good.
Yep. So, all right. Let's see. What is your favorite character in your book, if you have one?
I do.
Okay.
Probably the main. So it's really hard to narrow it down to one actually. But it's got a big cast. Probably Klaus, who is the main protagonist. There are, I guess, 3 main protagonists. So I'm just going to mute this to cough for a second. I just choked on some tea. 1 second.
Hey, I'm drinking peppermint tea right now, as a matter of fact.
Sorry. There
Oh,
you go. I
yeah.
didn't want to make you all deaf. I'm drinking Earl Grey. So
Okay.
drinking it black. So
Mm.
Klaus is my favorite character. He's the main. Probably my second favorite is Nerisen, who's a female character who comes in later, and then my third favorite is probably Alizar. And again, that's probably not going to be very relevant to anyone who hasn't read the book, but that's probably my cast.
Someone you can look forward to. So think of it. So, all right. So I see where, like, on your book cover, is it's got a bunch of birds. Now, Am I right? That is birds. Just to make sure.
Yes, there is a bird theme. I was threatened by
Okay.
Alex that if there were not birds in the book, then there would be some consequences. There are birds in the book, so so
Okay.
the southern the southern half of this continent, the Durandin, they revere birds. They have a lot of birds in their mythology, in their sort of traditions, and um, these, I mean, these are just some random birds. They don't specifically have any special meaning, but they represent that theme of birds throughout the book. That theme does continue throughout the series. It gets a little bit bigger. It's one of several themes, I think, but yeah, they're important, you know,
Okay.
in various ways.
Yeah. Alex was asking, why did you choose Klaus as the main character and not Berta? Thought it was an interesting choice.
So I know how the story ends, Alex. That's my answer to that question. I think, to be honest, they are both main characters, and in such a big story, it's hard to have a single main character. It's just in this first book, Klaus you start off thinking he is the main character, and then I know things unravel a bit, but everyone's journey develops at different paces, and that's how it is in this book. Book 2 is very different in terms of balance on characters, but yeah.
Okay. So Dave said that I am now an honorary Brit, and because of the T. Well, I got a little story for you, Dave. I'm not honorary. Actually, my great grandmother is from England, and
Ah.
I used to come whenever she moved over here, probably when I was 8 to 10 years old, I guess. And my grandparents moved from New York down to Tennessee, where we live, or where we used to live. And I remember every single day I'd get out of school, and I guess that was around apparently tea time over there wherever she was from, and it was consistent the same time every day. We'd have tea and
Oh yes.
crumpets. She would
Oh
make
yes.
it
Well,
was
she made her own
yeah.
crumpets.
Yes, she
Oh, I
did.
bet they were
Everything
good.
was off the oh, it was the best.
They're delicious.
So, yeah, and making
Oh yeah.
tea from the pots and all that stuff, like, now I use a Keurig, so but
With
yes,
it,
man, it's nothing better.
did she use loose leaf tea, or did she, like, you know, go the whole way, or
I
in a pot, or
honestly, I don't remember that. I'm not sure. I remember, the steaming and then making the whistle
oh yeah.
noise and doing all that, but I was too young to remember what that was.
So the most
But
important question is, what did she like to put on her crumpets?
oh, geez. I honestly don't remember now. That was so man, I don't know. You've stumped me.
There
I
we go.
remember, like, having, like, even I don't know if she did this or not, but then if she didn't have those, she would have the little I can't remember the cookies that they're called, but they've got, like, the strawberry or raspberry filling in the middle, like a little, like, I say jelly or something was kinda what it was.
Do you mean a
What?
scone that you put jam on top,
No,
or do
no,
you
it
mean it
wasn't
was
a scone.
filled?
No, it
Okay.
was I guess you'd say it was filled, but it was just, like, dripped on top is all it
Oh, I
was,
see.
like, just a
Okay.
little circle. She had those as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Nice.
it
That's a
was the
lovely
best.
memory. That's a
Oh, yeah.
lovely memory. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, and then he said, the bird in the middle, his name is Cornelius. He's my favorite character. Okay.
Dave, you're welcome to name all of the birds.
And
But
I'm
if
sure
you
he could.
but the rule is, if you name one, you have to write their story.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Yeah,
So you're welcome to name one, but you gotta write the story.
yeah.
Whoever says their grandma would put Marmite on hers, if you mean crumpets, oh yes. Oh yes. A crumpet with butter and Marmite. I mean, a lot of people would consider me an outcast for saying that, but they are delicious. Absolutely
Okay.
delicious. There we
I
go.
don't even know what Maramite is.
It's a love or hate relationship. It's like a
Okay,
yeasty, it's like a salty
okay,
vitamin K yeasty kind of spread that people either love or hate, and it's very
okay,
good. Yeah.
okay, so there's no in between. It's either
Oh yeah.
fantastic or awful.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Let's see. Yes, we have certain rules about beverages here on BookTube, and some other character. This you probably won't. This was like my third video I'd ever made. I drank out of like a Starbucks, like to go drink or whatever, and he roasted me on here about that. So that's why now, if I ever have anything, it's in one of these, and you never know what it is.
Fair enough.
So let's see, Dave. 2 cabinets full of tea here. My wife is a weirdo who doesn't drink coffee.
I like your
Okay.
wife already. Not because of the coffee, because I love coffee, but the 2 cabinets full of tea gets instant approval.
Yes, yes. I love both. Like, I normally
Me too.
drink like, in the wintertime is when I drink more tea, like, more than the summer, and kinda like about the same as my coffee. I don't drink much of it in the summertime. It's just too hot, and
Mm.
I like hot coffee probably better than anything, but
Yeah, hot co
no
I mean, I
nothing's
love coffee too. I also like the extremes coffee, so I like a good latte or like a, a flat white cappuccino, but I also
yeah,
like a black espresso shots. So in the
yeah.
Middle East, you have sort of, really really intense cardamom coffee in Syria, so it's different. So
Okay.
I like the range of coffee. Give me all the coffee.
Yeah, all the coffee.
All the coffee.
Now, Snowball Summer says, "No, Mormon." That's
I
Pink
told you
desecrated trumpet.
it's the level. See, now I'm an
Yeah,
outcast. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's delicious.
yeah.
But I also have them with honey and with jam and with butter and with,
Okay.
so hopefully that will redeem me,
Yep, yep.
toasted with cheese. There you
So, do you have a favorite line in your book that you wrote and you're like, "This could be the best thing I've ever put down before"?
go. Not really. I mean, not really. I don't know why that is. I just I love the story. I know that sounds a bit. I hope that doesn't come off as
No, no.
really obnoxious, but I
Yeah,
believe in writing something and polishing it until you really like it, and
mm,
once I like it, it's ready to go out into the world. So I kind of like the story and the way all the seams join up, rather than focus on specific lines. But so I like different. I mean, there are chapters that I love, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for people to read this bit. But but not specific lines.
okay. My wife just texted me and said that the cookies I'm talking about are thumbprint cookies.
Ah, I don't know
So,
what a thumbprint cookie is. Oh no,
um,
I'm gonna have to look this up now. I
okay.
feel
Yeah.
yeah, I'll look it up before.
I know. Okay, so you said like you don't really have a favorite line. I was actually surprised that you named like a character. I know a lot of people that talk like authors that say like, "Oh, I can't pick my favorite one." You know,
Yeah.
just they all mean too much. But I am glad that you chose a couple at least.
I do have favorite characters. I mean, I like them all, but I do have. Oh yeah, these are thumbprint. Yeah, I know thumbprint cookies. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've never called them thumbprint cookies. Thumbprint, sorry, cookies, but they're delicious.
Okay.
Oh, they're very
Yeah.
delicious. So thank your wife on my behalf for
Yes.
telling me the name. I'll eat them.
Yeah. I'm sure she texts
From
my
jam
mom.
drops.
So, so could you tell me the process of releasing the book? Like how did that go about? Like you get it done and then what goes about from there?
Are you asking about how it should go or how it went?
You can do both if you want to. That's fine.
So, I mean, the book was ready in terms of proofreading, etc., a year ago, almost a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago.
Mhm.
Um, and then a lot of personal stuff happened over the last year, and I decided just to wait. And ironically, I mean, I wanted it to come out in the winter, even though I
Mm.
initially kind of said, "Oh, try and get it out in the spring and get it out in the summer," and then I ended up being the current release date is pretty much the release date that I would have liked for last year, except that it's a year later.
Yeah.
But once it was ready, I realized that I really wanted to illustrate it, which is a bit of a belated realization, to be honest,
Mm.
for the amount of artwork that I've done. So I basically spent the better part of the start of this year just doing the illustrations. They don't take a huge amount of time, but things like preparing them, polishing them, making them look good in print, because I do them by hand, so they're not digital. So and getting them scanned, all of that took probably almost as long as drawing them. Um, so although I had the book ready and I'd announced it and everything, I had a bunch of personal stuff getting in the way, and then I had the illustrations, so that delayed everything. But I tend to kind of prefer not releasing stuff or planning to release stuff before in my mind is ready. So I kind of shot myself in the foot when I realized that I had to that I wanted to do all these illustrations. And then I just basically laid a blueprint. So I had I knew I wanted to send out some special ARC boxes to the people who very patiently waited for a few years and who've been really excited and who've been really encouraging. I wanted to send special ARC books, ARC packages out, and then I knew that I kind of then wanted to have a staged kind of some art reveals and then a publication date and etc. So I tried not to launch it too soon once the illustrations were, I mean, it was already launched too soon, if that makes sense, a year ago. But once I'd realized that the bulk of the work was done, I've been able to stick to that timetable. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
Okay. How how does it feel like going, like, say, you got your books ready, and then it's all about trying to get it out there and getting people to, know about the book, and then constantly trying, do you try to sell it, I guess, as much as you can to, I know you're on X, and then, are you on other platforms as well, or is
No,
that?
I'm not. I don't have time for any other platforms, if I'm
Yeah.
honest with you. Although I mean, I probably should try Facebook because there's a whole other generation of
Yeah.
kind of epic fantasy readers or fantasy readers who don't use X, but who are who are from the Facebook generation. So that's something I'd look into. But no, I'm just on X. So I initially actually queried this book when I first when I finished it, or when I was getting close to finishing it, etc. I was like, okay, now I've got to think about who I'm going to send it to, etc. And I didn't really know much about self-publishing. I learned very quickly that nobody wanted a book that was 2.5 the size of their, an average traditionally
Yeah.
published book. And that's the main reason why there were two reasons why I stopped that. So one, the word counts. I got some decent responses, but they were like, yeah, this is too big, or they wouldn't even look at the crew because it was too long.
Wow.
And the other was because I just kind of understood more about the process, and it just was never going to work for me. I mean, it's a great process for people who like, it just wouldn't, I can't keep to those kinds of deadlines. I really need more control over deadlines and over timetables and things. So I ditched that, and then I discovered self-publishing, which was great. And I forgot an original question.
Just more trying to, like, sell your book, like,
Oh
it's
yeah, that
ready
was
to
it.
go. How?
I
Yeah.
remember why I went down this road. So in the process of querying, I met a lot of really great writers, many of whom are still pursuing a traditional route, some of whom are incredible writers. And you form if you form groups with, I mean, my critique part of Katrin is a wonderful person and a lovely writer who completely different genre to mine. So she writes YA fantasy, which I used to love when I was reading more fantasy regularly. I mean, and we just got on really well. We liked each other's writing, and I think through that process of querying, you meet a lot of people in pitch contests, etc. So that kind of started to get some exposure. And then I got lucky with the fact that because I do illustrations, I think, when I share those, I think, you generate interest, and it's
Yeah.
a point of difference. And I got to meet some really great people. And then I think finding your tribe is really important, not in a cliquey sense, but I think everyone needs a group of supportive people who you can whinge to, who you can, who shout about, who will support your books, who, you just carry each other through the process. And I've had two. I'm part of the TM Books group, which is basically a UK based bunch of writers with one or two honorary exceptions who are overseas. And they were great. So again, when you form a circuit of friends like that, it helps expose your story and your writing to those people, and their web of contacts. And then also more recently, the Secret Scribes, who are a fantastic bunch of people. Don't tell Dave I said that. It's all his fault. He started the Secret Scribes, and we've all found ourselves, and because I launched it too early initially, and I was then doing drawings, I found that was what helped expose it the most. Ironically, I'd kind of release a chapter heading illustration every so often, and people got excited, which is quite nice. And it was a way to kind of keep it out there, even though I was finishing it off and polishing off the sort of illustrations and stuff. So that helped a lot. I didn't really reach out much to people to say, hey, would you like to read my book? I kind of looked at who was interested, and then, if they wanted the book, I sent it to them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with approaching people, just, cold calling, if you like. I mean, I think I sent out maybe 2 or 3 messages to people who I'd not interacted with before, but I just thought that it was nicer to kind of give it to people who had already expressed interest, because I thought that was just nicer. It was just, it was rewarding for everyone, I think. But yeah, I got lucky with illustrations. I think that was probably a big win for me.
Yeah, it helped you kind of get your foot in the door to other people, and then worked on with the book. That's really cool. Like, I'd seen where, I forgot who it was now, someone on Twitter, but do authors go about, which I know with your tribe and all that, do y'all kind of like what Dave was saying about people walking you off a ledge? Like, do y'all go through like struggles sometimes on, I don't know if I want to put it out. I'm worried about it now, even though it's done. And now what happens if everyone hates it? Like, does that ever go through your head?
I think the only thing that worries me really is letting out a book which still has a typo, or which has like a sentence that I'm still not happy with. Because even the ARC books, I mean, I sent out some physicals and I sent out some e-ARCs. I mean, I had like over 150 tiny, and they're tiny
Yeah,
errors. There may be a small number of actual typos and grammatic errors that needed tweaking. And when you edit and when you transfer your files onto, when you move them into whatever you're using to actually make the book, that you always kind of make errors and things. And you lose kind of sentences, or you introduce breaks where they shouldn't be, or whatever. But my main concern was has always been letting a book out that I wasn't 100% happy with. I like my story, so even if people hate it,
yeah,
it's just what I wrote it for me first. So
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really have those fears. I'm worried about it not being what I wanted it to be. So
yeah.
I'm really sorry to everyone who's looking through the other copy and has seen, a random hyphen in the wrong place or whatever. But that's more my fear.
If that turns someone off from a book, I personally, I think that's absolutely crazy. But I understand. I mean, you want it to be put out there perfect, and it's going to happen. I mean,
It's
I've even read like say Brooke Sanderson books and stuff. There's a couple of typos in those. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to happen. You know,
Yeah, I know. It's not even typos. It's looking back at a paragraph and thinking, why did I have that word
make it better.
choice? Why?
Yeah,
That's what bothers me. It's not about it being perfect. It's about it feeling right, I suppose.
yeah,
That's more my concern.
yeah,
I don't have any expectations of like writing bestsellers or books that have loads of purchases or similar. So I start out from a place where I just want to write a story that I like rereading, because I'm a big rereader, like I said.
yeah,
So therefore it's easier not to have those fears about what if everyone hates it. I mean, if they hate it, there are bigger
yeah,
problems in the world. That's my
yeah.
attitude.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of on the same boat as you on a lot of that stuff. You seem like a person of like, I wrote it for me. If you don't like it, then it's fine. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
basically. Yeah.
It and I like that. You got to have thick skin on a lot of stuff. It can't just be like a people pleaser. And if someone doesn't like it, it's the end of the world. Just let it go. No one is going to
Exactly.
like everything. That is for sure.
Oh, I know. Exactly. No, I was going to add that. It's just, you will never write a book that will please everyone, and that's
Yep.
absolutely okay. If we all had the same tastes, it would be dull. I mean, I
Yep.
like a huge range of books. I would not want to read books similar to mine over and over. It's enough to have one or
Exactly.
two that I like, and I wouldn't. I'm made of dragon hide, so
There
I
you
don't.
go.
So I don't.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Dave said he's a people pleaser. Not good, not good, my
No,
friend.
Dave. You do it so well, though. It's
Yeah,
just you just
yeah.
please people. That's why.
See, I'm not here to judge an author's spelling grammar. I'm here for the adventure. Absolutely,
I
100% agree with
agree. I
that.
appreciate that. And
Um,
I think there are some books out there that I've read that have had spelling or grammar issues, they don't ruin stories for me. They really don't.
No,
I mean, I just,
agree.
I can see through that. I mean, I know it really bothers some people and they'll go out there and have rants about it on Reddit. And I just don't care. I just want the
Exactly.
story. I'm happy to see past that. It's not a paper that's
Yeah.
being graded.
Yeah. If you're pitching a fit over a word being spelled wrong or, not a comma somewhere or something, it's like, I think you got bigger problems than you
Yeah.
realize probably because you need to let that go.
And remember,
Yeah.
stories really began as an oral tradition once upon a
Yeah.
time. We now write them, and in some places, like mine, still very much. And nobody was thinking about the grammar and the. I mean, these things are important. Don't get me wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
as people who've read my books know, and I enjoy kind of polishing the words, but oral traditions don't. They have a different focus. It's about the way it makes you feel. It's about the journey. It's about, the way it makes you feel afterwards, whether it stays with you, the
Mhm.
memories. So
Yeah. 100% agree. So, another question is, are you working on anything besides the Wingspan of Treason? Like, is it planned on being 2 or 3 books, or is it just this one, or
So provisionally, oh no, it's not one. It says it on
okay,
the it says it on the tin.
okay.
Shockingly, it's I mean, hopefully it's the biggest one. I say that, and my husband laughs at me because I didn't plan for it to be this long. But when you decide that it's not going to be this long, hopefully it'll be better. I didn't realize that when I started writing this one. Um, so provisionally, I had 5 books planned out. If life just gets too much in the way, or if I can get it into sort of longer stories but fewer books, I might just aim for 4. I don't like dragging stories out, but I just had lots of exciting ideas for the
Yeah,
series. So I've already started writing book 2. Actually, like I told you, I
nice.
tend to spend a lot of time planning the kind of basic foundation and architecture of a story, the skeleton, before writing it. So although I've started writing book 2, I'm actually spending more time thinking. I'm thinking a lot about a book before I actually start writing, thinking about it, doing a bit of research. And travel counts as part of that research, I must confess. Um, and then I'll, hopefully continue. I don't want to spend as much time writing any of the other books as long as I spent writing this book. But I think the book
Yeah,
one is always a different journey. You're discovering
mhm,
the vibes, the characters, the style of writing, and yourself. People say you need to write however many words, like a million words or whatever, before you kind of polish your style or whatever. I don't do that. I just want a very long book over and over
yeah,
and over and over. So
yeah,
so hopefully that's worked. But like I mentioned earlier, I write general and literary fiction, and there are 2 other things that I've been working on. One I haven't worked on for as long. One I started in COVID, which was basically almost like a set of literary memoirs, and they were based on my sort of patients and
okay,
carers and relatives' experiences. That's sort of very close to my heart. Very kind of short work. Um, I don't really know what form it will take ultimately, but I add to that as and when I kind of have the encounters that I need to write that. And the other book, Baby, I would say, is my general fiction, which is almost finished. I haven't yet kind of edited it or proofread it or similar. Very different story to this, probably around 85,000 words if I finish it, and general fiction. So that they're the 2 things and I'd like to finish that before the second book of this series comes out. So that's 3 things that I'm working on, I
okay.
guess, on the side.
Awesome, awesome. Say Snowball Summer. So, where have you traveled to for research?
Oh, I don't travel very far or very much. It's just I consider it as part of my research. So, but actually, one place that I have and I, in the same way that I'm a rereader, I tend to like revisiting places that I love, and this is not a good thing because then you just don't discover new things. But
Yeah.
I've lived in Finland briefly and on and off, but I've lived in Finland,
Oh,
I've traveled there a lot. I love
mhm,
Finland. I absolutely love Finland. It's very inspiring. I love the culture. I like the people. I mean, I initially went there for work, and then I just kept going
yeah,
back, partly for work, but also for
that's awesome.
because I loved it. So, and it's very different. I love the language. The language is like no other language in existence. You may know the closest thing to it is Hungarian, and even that is very
Oh,
different. And it's
okay.
not Scandinavia, it's just far north. It's very north, and it's just wonderful. Um, So whenever I kind of really want to be inspired, I will go to Finland. I haven't been for a long time because of COVID and everything else, and then you just get busy.
Yeah.
And then I just, there are lots of wonderful little places all over the UK where I love going. That alone is inspiring. So you don't need to go very far. I think it's what you get out of a place.
Yeah.
I can't really go back home at the moment, so I can't really travel to Syria very much at the moment, well, at all at the moment. So that's a hugely inspiring place. I mean, it's beyond inspirational. I can't tell you how inspirational it is. But that's the other place that I would go to for inspiration if I had to. I don't really have much time to travel, so I just tend to steal away for a few days somewhere where I can just drive by car. But yeah. I can get to Finland quicker than I can get to North London, though, most of the time, if that gives you... I mean,
Really?
honestly, yeah, the traffic is so bad in London that I
Okay.
will literally get to Helsinki quicker than I get to... Yeah.
Okay. So Dave said he's read a snippet of the literary memoirs. Mind-blowing prose.
Thank you,
Okay.
Dave. I think we alienate some people with the literary side of things, but that's you and I understand each other.
There you go.
Dave also has a literary background, so
Yes. Okay, so I'm sure what most people are here for. How did you join the secret scribes? Did you learn a secret handshake, or is there a secret message? Or
Dave asked. That was it.
That's it. What?
That's it. He's us, and he's very sweet, and he was, very nice, and he's great fun, and I'm very honored that he asked. It's a wonderful bunch of people. So yeah, that it was as simple as that. I mean, he mentioned wanting to form a collective of fantasy writers, self-published fantasy writers, and I'd expressed interest, but then I was kind of very intimidated by Discord. I find it very... I'm still a bit I find it very hectic. So I didn't I was like, yeah, I'm interested. Oh no, it's going to be on Discord. But then he asked me later, and I was like, okay, let's try this. And then I'm kind of getting used to it now.
Yeah. I think I'm in like one or two Discords, and it's so different than everything else to me,
Yeah.
and this is really weird.
Yeah. I like single channels,
Yeah.
everything's straightforward. But Davis, the scribes generally have set it up so that it's less busy than other places, and you kind of eventually remember where all the channels are, and they're all relevant, so it's not so bad.
Yeah. I think once I'm able to get your book, you'll be like the fourth or fifth. I think fourth or fifth Secret Scribes author that I have a book from. So
we have noticed, Rowdy. We have noticed. I mean,
I'm trying to be secret, but obviously that doesn't
we're
work.
gonna have to create some kind of honorary station for you at this
There
point.
you go. Yeah. I'll be an honorary member. Just be on the
we
side.
would be honored.
Yeah. Y'all are all fantastic. I mean, legit. Like all of y'all are so nice and great.
And the great thing also is that a lot of people, I mean, people like Rob have had some books out for a while. I've just picked up one of Rob's books. I'm very excited to read it. I've picked up Path of Blades. But a lot of people in the Secret Scribes have had recent releases, and some of them are like book 2 in a series, and so established series, which is really nice. So things that are going places, unlike someone who writes like one big chunky debut and sometimes considers whether they should write anything ever again. And then a lot of releases are due to come, so that's been really exciting. So very busy calendar for the scribes.
I had is it E.H. Bradley sent me, I've got the Ranger on the way, and
I have the Ranger, and I'm very excited to read it.
Oh yes, it looks so good. I mean, man, none of y'all can write a bad book. That's great.
Well, can't please everyone, but
Dave, yeah, that's true. So currently, what are you reading?
So at the moment, like I said, I told you I'm reading because I'm greedy. I'm reading several. So by my bedside, there's a stack of like 12 books, and the top of, so currently, let me see. I've recently read, actually I have finished this, and I've reread it because I told you I'm a rereader. When Shadows Grow Tall by Marissa. It's a beautiful book. I have only one complaint, and that was it wasn't longer because of the kind of style of writing she uses. So that's a great book. But currently reading, so I have started Tanner the Tender Sword by Bill. I've been excited about this for a
Oh
long
man,
time.
yeah.
So
SPFTO
excited about this.
finalist, ain't he?
I know, and listen, I just want to say I was excited about this like way before it was finalist anything. Okay, I just love
Yep.
the look of the book. I love the illustrations. I'm very glad. I'm very happy that it's got the accolades that it has recently. Also won best cover, didn't it recently?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. So, and I mean, I love illustrated books. I love children's and young people's books and films and things generally. I think from my early, I get a nostalgia for those stories. So I'm reading that. I'm reading The Odalic Stone by Alex, who is here.
Yep. That's on the
I'm reading,
list.
yeah, Spricket the Bard,
Okay.
which is another scribe's book, and Envoys. So they're the
Yep.
4 books. I've recently also just about to start Reawakening by Alethea Lyons, who's a great friend of mine. I love The Hiding. She did The Hiding, which was set in York. Very beautiful, atmospheric book if you're out for something that makes you feel like you've gone to a city that you've never been in but would like to go to. But they're the 4 that I'm reading at the moment. I've also got a arc of Lightfall by Ed Crocker, who's a good friend.
Oh
I
yes,
am
I've
super
heard.
excited. I mean, yeah, super
Whew,
excited about this. Ed
yes.
and I have been friends for quite a while. So he's one of
Okay.
my oldest writing friends. And I think post release, I'm going to just kind of get through all these, hopefully just like not write for a good few weeks and just enjoy reading. And that's just, it
Yeah.
comes out in January. So that's high up there on my list. And then I've got a whole bunch of other scribes books to get through and
Oh
a few other
man.
bits and pieces. So it's exciting. I told you there's a stack of
Yeah.
12. I've got some more that's hopefully going to be arriving in the next few weeks, but I've got to just get the book out and not stumble at the last hurdle.
They I think that's now Lightfall is a vampire book, right? Is that correct?
Vampire werewolves, yeah.
Vampire. Okay. Yes, I've heard fantastic things about that book
I'm
from
very excited.
multiple people. So
Yeah. I also know Ed, he's like a witty, snarky,
okay.
mischievous sort of character. So I
Okay.
fully expect this. I mean, I've read excerpts of this book over years, which is why I'm so excited about it. So I
Oh,
know
okay.
what his writing is like, and I know Ed. So that's I don't I know a lot about his story. I know a lot about his style, and he's a great writer. So I'm excited
Yeah.
to read that. But the ones I'm currently reading, I'm really enjoying all of so far. They're all very different. So you can just kind of pick up the book that you feel like at a certain hour or a certain
Yeah.
day. And it's just great. It's great to have the variety.
Yeah. Yeah. I am almost okay, which I told you, Rhythm of War almost finished. I think I'm like 200 pages left, I think, finally. And then I'm reading The Hunter as well. You can see
Oh,
that by Kay
that's
Aggard.
yes.
That's a pretty thick one too. It's 600 pages. It's fantastic. I've
That's
got, I've,
that's such good things.
yeah, I've got 12 chapters in. And one thing which has nothing to do with the book, but it's all the chapters are super short. Like there's like
Mm.
70 chapters. So they're like
Oh
anywhere
wow.
from 4 to 10 pages per chapter. But I love that because
Yeah.
me, for one, just trying to read is because I don't have much time. It's like, okay, just do one more chapter. It's only a couple more pages. And it just pushes me to keep going. But man, this book is
That
great.
sounds really good. I mean, it also creates it generates a lot of pace just having those
Yeah.
kinds of chapters, whether it's
Yeah.
chapter breaks or chapters. So this book I had been following from her for like a long time before it was out. I remember the author talking about the cover and how long it took
Mhm.
to get right. So it's very exciting. It's on my to buy list, but I've spent quite a little bit too much money on buying books lately all at once. So I'm,
Yeah.
but it's on my to buy list because I've heard great things. It looks like a book I would love.
It's really good. It's got a animal companion is
Oh,
a basically a dire wolf,
mhm, mhm,
and his name is Greer. It's so good, and I can tell it's gonna get really emotional later on, like, just the
Oh,
way things are happening now in the beginning and about, the girl that's in it, and then Strider, I guess, is like, those 3 are the main characters. It's gonna be great.
I love animal companions, so that just makes me want to read it even more.
This
Like
is actually my
your excitement makes me want to read it even more.
Yeah. This is actually my first book I think I've ever read with a true animal companion. Like, there might
Oh
be
wow.
a couple of books I've read that have them in there, but
Mm.
no, like, he is big time in this book, and he's every scene, so it's really good. Oh,
Fantastic.
let's see. Alex said those are some really great books that you're reading
I
right
know,
there.
Alex. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know why. I mean, they just,
yeah,
happen to be written by a bunch of great people that I know. But yeah,
exactly. I'll be on Alex's book. I think January is what I've got planned out
it's a
for it.
good book.
So that's I can't wait.
It's really Alex's book is so it's YA. Like I don't read for a long time. When I stopped reading, I moved away from YA because I just couldn't find a kind. His book summons for me the kind of YA books that I loved reading as a
Okay,
teenager and as a young adult. Like I really, really miss that. So it has a certain kind of nostalgia. So does Hannah the Tennis Lord, actually. So it kind of really hits the mark. And it's a really easy read in the sense that it just everything just flows. It's just really nice. It's just the pace. I love the pace. It's a great pace. So you'll enjoy it. I'm looking forward to
okay.
finishing it and then rereading it.
Awesome. So yeah, Dave's upset because NetGalley was rude and denied his
Oh,
request. It's I
who
understand.
needs Nick Alley?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not signed up for it yet, but I think I'm fixing to. I traded in. I just got rid of my Kindle, and which I'm waiting on Black Friday to hopefully the new ones go on sale,
Mm,
and
mm,
probably I'm going to get another one. I was looking at it or possibly a Kobo, but
mm.
trying to transfer everything over is a headache and a half, is what it looks like.
Oh,
So
I know nothing about this. So I don't have an EPUB
okay,
reader at
okay,
all. I think I'm probably going to have to invest one at some point just for space because I'd like to buy more stuff and there's no
yeah.
space for it. But yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help you there. But I can imagine. I
Well,
can imagine.
that was kind of my thing where I'm at is like my shelves are full right now,
Yeah.
and every single one of these I've purchased this year or
Oh
gotten from
wow.
an
Oh God, there
author.
is
Yeah.
no hope for you.
So yeah, so that's where I was kind of like, and I'm not a super big fan on e-readers at all, just because I don't know. There's something about holding a book and reading it is I just
Absolutely.
like, but I'm trying just for the fact of because a lot of times you can get them for super cheap.
Yeah.
A lot of authors put them on sale for $1, or they'll be free for like 2 days or
Yes.
something, and try it like that. And then if I like, okay, this is going to be good, then
Yeah.
go buy the book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. I do love pen and paper. I mean, I love paper and ink rather. It's the
yeah,
magic of holding a book. But to be
yeah,
honest, the convenience of having it on an e-reader, I do
mm,
understand. I have a lot of textbooks in e-format, not on a I'm going to read it, but in like Adobe formats, and I can see the appeal.
yeah. And
We can't just get more bookshelves. I mean, we'll just get thrown out the
exactly.
house at this
Exactly.
point, as
I'm gonna
much
have to
as
move. Yeah, I'm gonna have to move where this stuff is and go to another room if I
yeah.
keep getting more books. It's like, it might be a problem.
Might
So,
be. If
yeah,
this
but I
is
mean,
just the start of the year, I mean,
yeah.
are you in trouble already?
Let's see. Dave says, "Francois the spider and Francois the horse." And Alex, apologize for advancing long chapters. No, it's nothing that matters. I just like it just because it's so easy, to keep pushing me forward. Just because I'm a really slow reader. That's the only reason. And then he said, "Thanks, Lamia."
It's easy.
Yes,
Even
and
though the chapters are long, it's easy to just bookmark if you need to
yeah. Oh,
somewhere,
yeah, yeah.
and just go back to it. It's just not
I
difficult.
I'm real big on it. It's really hard for me just to stop in the middle of a chapter. I don't know why in my head it's like, no, just finish the chapter
Yeah.
and then you can stop. Just
Yeah,
finish
I
the
agree.
chapter.
It's more satisfying, I think, because when you
Yeah,
write a chapter
yeah,
off, if you often write it as a almost like a mini story or a
yes,
self-contained kind of, thread, and it's nice to finish a chapter. It's more
yeah,
satisfying.
yes. Just get more bookshelves. Yes, I totally agree. If you can fit them somewhere, get more bookshelves. So, all right, I have two questions left. So, what is your favorite book ever? Period. The best.
So for English speaking, well, it's not even English speaking. So English editions in Arabic, I'd have to think about this because that's a whole. I haven't even thought about that. But I can answer this very easily for books translated to English, and that is The Brothers Karamazov by
Okay.
Dostoevsky. That is hands. I don't even have to think
Ah,
about it. That is, if you haven't read it, and you asked me earlier, you were going to ask me what book, and this would be. You have to like, classics, but I just that book is so special. So one of my husband got me a wedding gift of a very special early edition of this book, and it's one of my most
Oh,
prized possessions. It's a
okay.
incredible book. It wasn't even originally his book. It's written kind of stuff that was lumped together as a book eventually, but it's just, I love that book.
I was who was I was watching somebody on YouTube that was reading one of his books last week or week before, and it's took him like nearly 2 months, I think. And he's like got a list of like words and what they mean, and
Yeah,
like it's really difficult. Like whichever book he's reading, I
yeah,
don't know which one it is, but yeah, but the way he talks, like whenever he finishes and puts an update up about it, that he loves it. It's
yeah,
just a whole lot of like research on it, like as you're
yeah. It's
reading it.
just, it's that kind of book. It's the kind of book that I'm keep saying this, big rereader, but it's the kind
Yeah,
of book where if you read it, you find something new every time. It's the kind of book that you should reread. It's not just for the story.
yeah,
It's just a wonderful book, and it's translated from the Russian. Obviously, there's more than
yeah,
one
yeah.
um, version of the prose is slightly different depending on the translator every time you read it,
Mhm.
but the stories and yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then the final question I have: what book would you recommend me to read?
So as I hinted in my last answer, I'd probably suggest the Brothers Grimm.
Okay. Okay.
It might not be your, but if you don't like classics, it
Okay.
might not be your thing. It
I've never
might be
read one,
something
so
you can consume really slowly.
yeah.
But I thought actually, because you know you clearly love fantasy. I was going to ask you actually, Brady, before I answered this question, is do you enjoy other genres? If you kind of, I know you just kind of got into reading in a big way this year. Have you
Yeah.
tried other genres?
No, I have not, but I've always been interested in what's it called? The kind of like a either a memoirs or
Mm, mm-mm.
um what are they called? Kind of like documentaries or something,
Yeah.
kind of
So,
like
so
that.
what
Those sound,
non-fiction?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I was going to suggest the Brothers Karamazov, but just because selfishly I just think it's such a great book. But if you, it's not a memoir, but he pours all his sort of like life's wisdoms and
okay,
lessons he's learned from his follies and things into it. So it's just it's a deep book. So I'd recommend that very.
okay, okay. So I can get that an audio book very easily.
Yes, you
Okay, well maybe
can.
I'll
Yeah,
look it up. I'll
yeah.
look it up here
It's
in just a
dense.
minute.
It's dense, but
If they hopefully they'll have it on like my Libby app, which is my library.
yeah.
So if they do, then that would be fantastic, and I could try it out really soon. Oh, there it is. They sure
There's,
do.
yeah, I'm sure they do. It's, I mean, for some, some people might get bored. It's the kind of thing that you
Yep.
might study at university or write papers on, but I just really enjoy it.
Okay. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe I'll try them both. One of them is 35 hours and the other one is 19. And
Oh
then there's
gosh,
another one that's 42.
what?
So,
Maybe the
on
pace,
audio, I don't know.
very strange.
Maybe. Yeah, that's
Big
kind of weird.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's see. Now, Red's going to say he's going to have to read it. All right. That's all I have. Do you got anything else you want to say about your book release or anything like that?
No, thank you for having me. It's very kind. This is my first sort of official book interview, so I'm very honored that it was with you.
Well, I hope I
Um,
was decent.
Of course, yes. We're just learning together. I mean, this is just, it
Yeah.
was, thank you very much for having me. I'm trying to set up, I noticed people have been asking, I'm trying to set up pre-orders. The EPUB actually is available for pre-order. For some reason, it is not showing up. The paperback should be available for pre-order very soon. So hopefully next week I'll announce that. And there's a whole bunch of exciting stuff, giveaways and things. It's mostly giveaways, quite frankly, because I don't do many interviews. Because, I'm just a very small writer who likes to give things away. There are lots of exciting giveaways coming up in the next 2 weeks. So if anyone's interested, then keep an eye out.
Well, thank you very, very much for coming on the channel. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, my
So,
pleasure.
all right. Well, everybody, that is it. And y'all have a fantastic night and
Thank you,
see y'all
Rowdy.
later. Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.